a person captured on camera as an avalanche engulfed him. Every minute, various natural phenomena occur around the world, some of which impress with their beauty, while others evoke fear. A group of tourists experienced unforgettable moments in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan. The group included 1 Briton and 9 Americans who were exploring the Tian Shan when an avalanche descended from the mountain peak. The Briton, Harry Shimon, decided to film the event, but it seems he didn't fully gauge the distance to the massive snow mass that eventually engulfed the tourists. According to Harry, he lagged a bit behind the others because he was engrossed in photographing the landscapes at the edge of the cliff. Suddenly, he heard a loud crack of snow and realized that an avalanche had started. Harry stayed in his place because there was shelter nearby. He noted that they were incredibly lucky. If the group had continued along the trail and the avalanche had come down a few minutes later, no one would have survived. Harry said that he didn't immediately run to the shelter because at that moment, he didn't yet realize that the situation was getting out of control. But the closer the avalanche got, the harder it was to breathe. Miraculously, no one was injured. Seriously, only 1 woman from the group injured her leg, and she was taken to the hospital on horseback. Earthquake in Japan. Surveillance cameras captured one of the most powerful earthquakes that occurred in northeastern Japan, which became one of the most spectacular and terrifying events of the 21st century. With a magnitude of 9, it was named the Great East Japan Earthquake. According to scientists, such powerful earthquakes occur in Japan only once every 600 years. This disaster triggered a massive tsunami that covered an area of more than 216 square miles. The footage of this event is truly stunning and evokes a sense of panic and horror. Around 4 a.m., the residents of the city were awakened by the underground tremors. The alarm was first raised by the military, who noticed that the water had receded from the shore by more than 1,500 feet. They began firing into the air to warn people of the impending danger. However, most residents living near the water did not understand what was happening. The first wave reached over 33 feet in height and caused significant destruction. Many who managed to take shelter on higher ground decided to return to save their belongings. But they did not suspect that the second wave would be 26 feet higher than the first, and immediately following it would be a third. It is likely because the residents were unaware of the upcoming 2 waves that so many people perished. Abnormally large hail and a sandstorm. Hail forms in clouds when water droplets are lifted to great heights. The higher they rise, the lower the temperature, and gradually the droplets freeze, turning into ice balls. These chunks begin to fall to the earth under their own weight. The most powerful hailstorm in history occurred in South Dakota, USA, in 2010. The diameter of one of the hailstones was 7 feet 9 inches, and the temperature at which it formed was around minus degrees Fahrenheit. A terrifying tsunami caught on camera on July 17, 1998, was one of the most destructive tsunamis that occurred on a remote part of the New Guinea coast. 2 powerful underground shocks, occurring 20 minutes apart, caused a 30-foot wave that completely destroyed 3 villages along a stretch of coast more than miles long. The epicenter was just 31 miles from the village of Atape, where the wave, ranging from 30 to 50 feet high, arrived within 10 minutes. Although tsunamis are not uncommon, for the residents of this region, such destructive force, the wave was something unusual for them. After the earthquake, a coastal area of about 39 square miles was submerged. In January 2005, a powerful earthquake occurred on the islands of Itsu and Miyake, causing a tsunami with waves ranging from 98 to 164 feet high. However, the local population was warned in advance, and the evacuation was successful. Fortunately, no injuries among the residents were reported from the impact of the tsunami. The earthquake and subsequent tsunami that struck the Tohoku region in Japan on March 11, 2011, became one of the most destructive natural disasters in history. The earthquake had a magnitude of 9, which caused giant waves that flooded coastal areas. The tsunami claimed the lives of over 200,000 people and also led to massive infrastructure destruction. One of the most striking moments of this disaster is a house that was found about 70 miles from the coast. and it became a symbol of the destruction. The damage from the disaster was estimated at $235 billion, making it the most costly catastrophe in world history. On December 26, 2004, around 8 a.m., an earthquake with a magnitude occurred in the Indian Ocean. Following it, a 50-foot tsunami wave hit the west coast of Thailand. It became one of the most destructive tsunamis in history. In terms of casualties, it claimed more than 2,000 lives. The high losses were associated with an underdeveloped warning system, the peak tourist season, and people's underestimation of the threat. Many tourists, seeing the sea recede several hundred feet, stayed on the shore, unaware of the danger. At the same time, animals, sensing the impending disaster, left the coastal areas and headed to the mountains, which could have served as a warning for people. On July 9, 1958, an earthquake of significant magnitude occurred, followed by a massive landslide from the mountains. More than 1 billion cubic feet of rocks and ice plunged into the waters of the bay. This led to the formation of a giant wave whose height exceeded 1,600 feet, equivalent to the height of a 170-story building. The wave's speed reached approximately 99 miles per hour. It swept away everything in its path, including forests on the high northern mountains. The only ones who managed to survive were the fishermen on a vessel, the bark, which, by some miracle, was thrown by the wave out of the bay and then carried over the shoal. Finding themselves on the other side of the mountain, they were left without a vessel, but they were saved. Volcanic eruption. On the morning of May 18, 1980, a small earthquake shook the state of Washington, triggering the largest landslide on the northern side of the volcano, Mount St. Helens. The earthquake caused the volcano to awaken. The eruption was so powerful that ash covered 11 neighboring states. As a result of the tragedy, 57 people died, including photographer Robert Landsberg. He captured the entire eruption process, but in the final moments of his life, he covered the camera with his body so that the photographs would be available to the public after his death. In 2017, the internet was amazed by a video capturing the eruption of the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii. The lava flow, rapidly moving towards the Pacific Ocean, creates giant clouds of steam upon contact with the water. At the same time, chunks of molten lava are thrown into the air more than 98 feet high. This eruption became the most powerful in recent years. Fire, destroying everything in its path. In 2020, Australia experienced one of the most devastating series of wildfires. However, barely had the firefighters managed to control the fire when a new calamity struck the country, a sandstorm. The wind lifted ash, remnants of destruction, sand, and dust, carrying them towards the city of Dubbo. The storm moved at a speed of 62 miles per hour, and the city was completely covered in sand for several hours. Have you ever witnessed a sandstorm in real life? Another impressive atmospheric phenomenon is a sand avalanche, which is a giant wall up to 1.5 kilometers high. Being near such a nightmare is extremely dangerous. Residents of the Middle East witnessed a giant sandstorm that moved so quickly it completely engulfed the city within minutes. Fortunately, no one was harmed despite the real threat. Another rare and terrifying natural phenomenon is fire tornadoes. These can occur during massive, frightening fires under strong wind conditions. The temperature at the center of such a tornado can reach 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Such firestorms are only extinguished in exceptional cases. Tornadoes and hurricanes that have hit the USA. A tornado is a powerful atmospheric phenomenon capable of destroying everything in its path. Most of these storms have been recorded in North America, where the largest tornadoes reach lengths of 4 kilometers. It's hard to forget the most destructive hurricane in U.S. history, named Katrina, in 2005. As a result of its impact, about 1,200 people died, and more than 1 million residents of the southeastern part of the country were left homeless. The greatest destruction was caused in the states of Louisiana and Mississippi, where cities were flooded by 80%. Minor floods caused by the hurricane spread across the country, reaching as far as Canada. In 2006, the United States experienced a true weather epidemic. Throughout the year, 1,333 tornadoes swept across the country, claiming the lives of 67 people. The image captures one of the 14 tornadoes that occurred on August 24, 2006, with 3 of them recorded in Minnesota. This tornado traveled over 30 miles, took the life of 1 person, and caused damage to the state amounting to $30 million. The most destructive tornado in the United States in the last 40 years struck the city of Joplin in Missouri. A tornado of incredible strength, nearly 5,000 feet high, claimed the lives of 158 people, and more than 1,150 were seriously injured. As a result of this natural disaster, about 7,000 homes were destroyed, and the total damage amounted to a staggering $3 billion. Marine tornadoes occur when streams of hot and cold air collide, caused by differences in atmospheric pressure, creating a funnel similar to a giant vacuum cleaner. After these natural disasters pass over the Earth, often absolutely nothing is left. Lightning and other natural phenomena. This is not only a mesmerizing and inspiring natural phenomenon. In one of the videos, you can see how a powerful lightning strike destroys a tree next to a house. I think everyone understands that lightning is an extremely dangerous force of nature, and it's not something to experiment with. One of the most mystical natural phenomena is ball lightning. When it appears, it truly makes your blood run cold. Scientists around the world continue to study this phenomenon, despite numerous experiments conducted in laboratories, which confirm its real existence. The nature of this phenomenon remains a mystery, just like the next wonder of nature. There is only one place in the world where it can happen. This incredible phenomenon, it is about the Gulf of Carpentaria in Australia. The peculiarity is that here, in this place, clouds form an arc-shaped sphere. They move at speeds ranging from 33 to 100 feet per second and appear only at altitudes between 328 and 656 feet above sea level. The car sinkhole in Guatemala. All natural disasters are terrifying, but nothing evokes such horror and fear as car sinkholes. Although there are many factors that can cause the formation of these black holes in the ground, their appearance always occurs suddenly and chaotically. One such sinkhole appeared in Guatemala in 2010 after a tropical cyclone, which led to massive landslides and floods. Due to heavy rains and an inefficient drainage system, a section of land 65 feet in diameter collapsed to a depth of 98 feet down, taking with it a 3-story building in, causing the death of 15 people. The eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines. 1991, it became one of the most powerful eruptions of the entire 20th century. This volcano had remained calm for 611 years, and therefore the residents of the region did not expect its sudden awakening. As a result of the eruption and its consequences, at least 875 people died. In addition to well-known land volcanoes, there are many underwater ones, hidden from view. One of them is located off the coast of the uninhabited island of Hungatonga. Fortunately, as a result of the powerful eruption in 2009, no one was harmed, except for the flora and fauna of the island, which ended up completely covered with a thick layer of ash. Volcanic lightning, often called dirty thunderstorms, occurs when a volcano ejects particles, ash, dust, and ice that rub against each other, creating static electricity. As a result of this phenomenon, along with a giant column of ash, lightning rises from the volcanic crater, striking with its beauty. Anomalous heat. In June and August 2003, Europe was engulfed by anomalous heat, which became record-breaking for these regions. France, Germany, and Switzerland were particularly affected by the high temperatures. During this extreme heat, about 40,000 Europeans died, most of whom were French citizens. During this period, the mortality rate in France increased 300 times. Significant damage was also done to the Mediterranean ecosystems, fish populations, as well as grape and wheat crops. The famine in East Africa in 2011 became one of the most serious humanitarian disasters, caused by prolonged droughts that affected almost all of East Africa. The food crisis affected not only Somalia, but also Eritrea and other East African countries, for which statistics remain incomplete. The United Nations World Food Program recognized this crisis as one of the largest in history. It is estimated that in 2011, between 50,000 and 100,000 people died from famine caused by the drought in Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, and Djibouti. As of 2012, 1 in 4 of the 856 million people in the region suffered from malnutrition, and more than 40% of children under 5 years old were affected by wasting. The famine was caused by 2 extremely poor rainy seasons. In some areas, rainfall was only 30% of the norm, and livestock mortality reached 60%. Milk production sharply decreased, which particularly affected children, and the prices of staple foods reached record levels in May 2011. Snow disasters. Snowstorm in Afghanistan. The snowstorm of 2008 went down in history as the deadliest, claiming the lives of 1,337 people. Temperatures dropped below minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit, and up to 6 feet of snow fell in mountainous areas. Many died from hypothermia, others when their vehicles got stuck in snowdrifts. In hospitals across the country, at least 100 people had to undergo limb amputations due to frostbite. About 100,000 sheep and goats, as well as 315,000 head of cattle, died as a result of the extreme weather conditions. Freezing rain. A common occurrence in Canadian winters. In just a few hours, it can cover cities with a thick layer of ice. Although this phenomenon may seem harmless, its consequences can be devastating. Ice, settling on tree branches, makes them so heavy that they start to break and fall, damaging roads, homes, and the earthquake in Nepal. In 2015, it became one of the most tragic disasters in the region's history. It caused numerous destructions and led to the deaths of thousands of people. One of the most horrific consequences was the avalanche on Everest during the peak of the spring climbing season. As a result of the avalanche, at least 24 people died, and more than 60 were seriously injured. Among the deceased was Google's executive director, Dan Fredenberg. This earthquake and avalanche, despite rescue operations, left a deep mark in history, affecting not only Nepal, but the entire world. The earthquake in Chile, which occurred in 2010, became one of the largest in the last 50 years. The 3-minute underground tremors, with a magnitude, were felt not only in Chile, but also in some areas of Argentina. In the following 2 days, the earth continued to shake from aftershocks of magnitude. And this catastrophic earthquake and waves. The tsunami claimed the lives of nearly 600 people,